Welcome to the SOB radio show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show. I'm back with Maggie Hunts, and she is a type 1 diabetic. She has opened for Mary Tyler Moore's Woman of the Year celebration in New York City. She is a stand-up comic and entertainer, and she has really translated her disease of diabetes 1 into something she's been able to use as an entertainment and comic type of presentation. So, Maggie, tell us a little bit about who hires you, where you do your thing, how you divide up what you do, and how much of it is content, how much of it is humor, how much of it is singing, etc.
Oh, that's my pleasure, Gail. Thanks for asking. And it does sound weird. How could you joke and sing about such a serious disease? But it could just so overwhelm us if we don't lighten up. And then when we lighten up, our mind opens up. So I like to combine them. And it just sort of happened. I mean, I was walking in Las Vegas, going to a speech, and the words to a song with diabetes lyrics came to me. I mean, it was just that weird. And so instead of singing Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, what came to me was, my blood sugar kept on rising up. The more I tried controlling it, the more it went berserk. Nothing seemed to work. Hey, now I'm in control and I just feel so happy. My life is mine. Nothing's worrying me. And then I bring it back to the...
So who did you do that for? Who was your audience?
So what I do is a lot of times, first of all, if there's any sort of, like for the American Diabetes Association and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, if it's a diabetes-oriented event, you could imagine if there's a research update or they're celebrating for a fundraiser, I love to support them with the music and the humor that lightens everybody. Go from realizing you're not alone to, we can do it. And then also there'll be people that are opening for conferences or they want a big wow in the beginning of their conference or an end at the beginning of their conference. I just finished a national conference. This one was diabetes oriented. It was the American Diabetes Educator Association. And that was thrilling to be able to acknowledge them. I love to acknowledge the medical profession for all they do to help us. And then I'll also do things like I did one for the Texas State Auditors, and it was great because I'll do something like, Texas made me audit you. I didn't want to do it. So I'll get different ideas when I hear the hook of another song and how it fits for people, and then I'll adjust the song. I've done it for finance, things that are not diabetes-oriented, and things that are. But I always end up telling my story about keep going, keep searching. Even if you're doing it for other people, it will help you and everybody that you know when you feel better, because you just can feel great, I promise.
So when you do your song, you do what? Just the parody in the beginning, or do you do it at the end and in the middle? And then when you're doing your program, which I assume is anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, is there messages that you give, or are there stories that you're telling that are humorous? I mean, how do you present that?
You're exactly right, because nobody wants to hear a whole bunch of dried up information on medical stuff. Even if you have the disease, you don't want to hear it, especially with diabetes. It seems like you're the last one who wants to hear it. So I use the music and the humor to invite people with me so that then they know I get it. I'm not perfect all the time. This is so not about perfection, which I'm sure you talk about too. I know, I've heard you. And it's really powerful to just remind people to keep trying. There are answers out there. There are people that can help you. Don't give up. It's not about being perfect. It's about just getting back on the horse when you've trotted over to Krispy Kreme. Just make those adjustments so you're not always doing it. And that will help you feel better, particularly with diabetes.
Yeah, I know a friend of mine, Teenie Robertson, she tells stories of all kinds of different things, and
She's
most of them,
fantastic.
yeah, she's and she's mostly, well, she talks about things that happen in her life, of course, but of course her husband and her son Beaver and her left brain, I mean, they're part of every conversation she has. But do you have particular um, people that you bring into your stories, or are
Yes.
they incidents about what has happened to you, or do you kind of just get observations from various things that go on in the world?
Yes, like all of those things. Like I'll feel a certain way. In fact, I'm putting together an app that would help people with all the different ways that we might feel. But my mother is in almost every speech I do because I will never, we all know that feeling like you're talking about with your past husband where it's like, "Hey, I can help you." And do they hear you? No. Especially if it's family. I'm like, "Ma, I wrote a book. I can help you. I have type 1, you have type 2, but the book is for both." And she was like, didn't want to hear about it. And then I thought about that. And I got the words to another song. And it was so funny because it also gave me some a comedy line afterwards because I said, "You might feel like my mother, where you just don't want to deal with what there is to deal with." And she feels like, "Oy, another doctor, another pill, another prescription I need to fill, another season, another reason for making copay." And I thought, oh, that's great. You're getting older when you go from singing Making Whoopee to making
Yeah,
copays.
that's right. Well, we all have our cross to bear, so to speak, and mothers seem to fill
Right.
that venue quite well. So, if you are doing, someone calls you, how do they hear about you, first of all?
Well, that's a really good point. Sometimes people hear about me from other people. I would say there's a huge referral base that I have. And then people will find me through the podcast or through the website, and or they'll find me through National Speakers Association or different associations, Speaker Match, different things. They Google you and find you. But it is true that I thought I want more than just my mom and people to know about me. And that's why it's so thrilling to get to do the big events. And, I got to do with one of the insulin companies, I got to go around and we toured and I wrote a comedic patient event and we did it, throughout the country. And it was exciting. And I got to meet Ben Vereen and we spoke. And I remember loving him in Pippin so many years ago. So there's so many people that have this diabetes question because, like you said in the beginning, I mean, there's millions of people that have it. There's over 8 million people that have it and don't know it. And that's where you want to get tested.
Yeah, that's
so that
even
you can
worse.
just make some small changes. Yes, totally.
Yes, and I can see where hospitals would bring, or medical practices, or any of those people would bring you in because you're ideal for them. But I'm really now obsessed with this holiday food survival guide that you're going to be giving away. So, what kind of tell us some of the things that are in there? I can't even imagine because I'm thinking of turkey and stuffing and
That's
sweet
right.
potatoes and
That's right.
all those good cookies and so forth. So tell me, what are some of your hints?
This is a perfect example of where the comedy comes from. The comedy comes from real life, which is always the truth, right? I mean, Seinfeld made a whole career over the small things in life that we could all identify with. And I was actually pissed off because I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be Halloween. And this is the same thing. It's like a diabetes nightmare from Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. We all sit around and eat high carbohydrate foods. How am I going to survive this? And then I started figuring it out year after year. And I thought, wow, I think I got this. And I invited friends over that don't have diabetes, as husbands don't like vegetables. And I thought, let's play with this. And it was so fun that I thought I need to write the Holiday Food Survival Guide, so that we can all get through not only everything that's in the store, but everything that's on the table that friends and family want us to eat, or that we think we need to prepare for everybody. So first of all, I've got so many recipes in here that walk you through how to trim, to cut. I don't do anything that takes forever. I really don't. I'm not into forever, and I always want it to taste good. So my husband can eat things that are just healthy for him, but I want it to taste good and be healthy for me. So I've got like lots of different tips, different lists on, planning ahead and, not walking around hungry. And I have stories where I tell on myself. I felt like Julia Childs when I dropped the turkey one time. And I thought, are you kidding? I have spent so long on this bird, I just heaved it back up and put it in the pan. There was just no way I was not cooking that bird. And I also made a list of higher carbohydrate vegetables and lower carbohydrate vegetables so that you could see, like, if you're going to have, sweet potatoes where you're at, like, that could be 60 carbs instead of 6 if you've got cauliflower. And that is a difference between a lot of insulin. So I made a whole list for everybody. And then I give you all kinds of holiday recipes, like appetizers, things you could do that are fast for appetizers, for side dishes, like have a giant, not a little salad, a giant salad, and then put your turkey on top of that. But I mean with like snap peas and sprouts and jicama, and dice up apples instead of using cranberries, because that's a super sweet. Cranberries and raisins are a lot of sugar. But if you're using, cucumbers and dicing up a nice crisp red apple, that is sweet without sending your sugar flying. That's what makes it so important. And you can put some berries in, just don't do too much fruit if you can, and then there's all kinds of seeds and meats and prosciutto you can sprinkle on there, goat cheese if you eat dairy. If you don't, there's a lot of great dairy substitutes. I show how to roast vegetables. I've got broccoli, bok choy. I mean, there's so many, asparagus, tomatoes. There's different kinds. You can just eat straight spaghetti squash. It's all in here. Cauliflower puree, and you'll get all these recipes with pictures and how-to steps, I promise.
Wow. Sounds great. I have to say,
it is great.
So,
and I have to tell you, I also included some dessert things so that there's some other things for you, so you're not staring at all the desserts. I have something called Decadent Dessert Defense, and it just talks about the 10 steps to survive holiday desserts. Like, don't get trapped by the enemy. Know what the carbs are. Sometimes if I had to look things up about Starbucks so that I would stop even looking at the the pumpkin scones, because I used to love them. But the thing is, don't put yourself in those situations. Don't bring that stuff. Have other foods that you can eat to replace that. That's why I show you, if you're going to eat pie, which ones to eat, and don't have a big slice, or give yourself this decadent, beautiful coffees that are so thick and creamy and really delicious. And you can do that with tea also. And which yogurts? I went through and showed you different yogurts. Like some yogurts, they have like 20 and 30 sugars in them, or they're full of chemicals. And you can get thick. Coconut yogurt is good, but it's thinner. Thick almond yogurt is delicious. And you just have to look at the label. You buy the unsweetened, add the stevia, you're all set.
It's interesting because I don't cook. That's number one. I don't drink coffee. I don't eat chocolate. I don't like ice cream. So but I do like certain desserts. I mean, I love berry pies. That's my favorite, berry pies. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of stuff I don't eat, but there's a lot of stuff I do eat. But, I want to find out, since this is a program for 50 plus, Maggie, tell us about whether you have run into any biases because you're over 50, or if things changed for you when you hit 50. So many of the listeners think their life is over once they hit that 50 mark. And I try to tell them, are you kidding? It's just beginning. You're getting rid of a lot of responsibility. You're having an empty nest. You're pretty well established in your career. You can decide where and what you want to do. So tell us a little bit about hitting that 50 mark and then maybe going into some of the things you've been doing?
Well, it's so interesting, Gail. I love your show. I love what you're all about. And I feel like the biggest prejudice was inside my own head because I'm about to turn 62 and I look younger, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for keeping myself healthy and doing the things I need to do for my diabetes of 35 years. I'm so proud of that. But what's so interesting is in my head, I thought, Maggie, you're going to be Whistler's mother by the time people know what you do. Or, maybe you used to think you were too young. Then you thought you were too old. There's always something. And they also tell women that when you're past menopause, they say, oh, well, you can't lose weight anymore. Just forget other people's assessments of things. Diabetes is not impossible. It can be frustrating if you let yourself get frustrated, and sometimes that just happens. But you just keep trying, just keep finding the answers. I have lost weight. I am, so there isn't any rules on how something has to be, but you have to find out what works for your body, what kind of exercise you're going to be able to do, which, you've had so many opportunities. You've shared that with people. You find what you like. Maybe you like country swing. Maybe you like to dance. Maybe there's certain music that you like that you want to jiggle to while you do stuff. It's all possible. And I needed to stop telling myself that I was too old and just get out there and do it. There's no better way to turn off what's going on in your head than taking action in your life. No better way.
Well, this is true. I just came back from a weekend at the Veteran Speakers Retreat, and these are people who have been in the speaking business, for a very long time. And we have people like Naomi Rhodey there. We have people
Wow.
like Barbara Glanz. We have, they're really neat people. And so I was there, and people were coming up and said, Gayle, what are you doing? You look so young. Like, have you had a facelift? And I thought, I've had 16 surgeries for my cancer. I'm not about to go under elective surgery for a facelift.
Yeah, really.
But I just, but I take good care of myself. I exercise every day. I do spend a lot of time with creams. I always call them my lotions and potions. And I spend a lot of time with those, but most people guess me at around, mid 60, right around there. And of course, I'm 81. But I have more energy. And one of the gals that I went on an afternoon sojourn with said to me, do you know you're my idol? And I said, no. And she said, you've got so much energy. You're still doing so many things. You never seem to slow down. This is what I want to be when I grow up. And I thought to myself, well, I'm glad I'm a role model for somebody. But it's good to hear, that uh, people are taking chances today. And you said something that was very important, and that is you have to come to terms with yourself first. And I always say, my mom said to me many, many, many years ago, you have to be able to look in the mirror and like yourself. And if you can't like yourself and you can't love yourself, you can't like or love anybody else. And I just, it's so true. I mean, I hope that I treat everybody well. I hope that I, don't ever push anybody the wrong way. I do stand up for myself, and I do give my frank opinion, hopefully not hurting anybody else in the process. But still, people have to come to terms with themselves. So I guess one of the best things that ever happened to you was the fact that you did pass out. Your daughter was scared to death, and it made you wake up and say, I got to pay attention to all of this.
That's right. It got my attention. And sometimes it gets your attention when friends go through things and when you go through things. Or, I'm grateful to that day. And I just want to say, you also have to be conscious of the choices that you make, because even not choosing is a choice. And you did not gain weight on a cruise ship. Like, that is huge. But you had to be conscious. It's not that you never ate anything great if they had berry pie. It just is you don't eat the whole pie. Like, you make your choices. You swap things. You're conscious of what you're putting in your mouth and how you're moving your body. And that is what can have you be energetic at any age. And you are absolutely a role model for all of us. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. But I think it's a matter. I know that one of the things that's the most important thing in life to have is a sense of humor, and that's what you have.
Mhm.
And do you think that was something that came naturally to you? I mean, or do you think, well, that's a good question for you. Do you think sense of humor can be developed?
I think you can learn to look for it a little bit, but it was so funny. The first time I ever did stand up, a friend said, "You're a natural." I thought, really? And so I did it. And then my mother and my stepfather came right in the front row. And then afterwards, my mother looked up at me and she says, "I never knew you were funny." I mean, it was priceless because I think that I notice things in life that are funny and that strike me as funny. I remember when Mike Myers did, all of his movies, and he said he just thought it was funny in his basement with his brother. He never knew that Austin Powers was going to be such a hit. And sometimes other people might think things are stupid, but to us, things are funny. And I can hear a hook, and to me, it's just diabetes, you know. And it's so funny what we do and where we see the humor, and it's in real life. And I do think you might be able to notice it a little bit, but I do think you're born with it.
Well, it's funny. We were with some people, as I say, this weekend, and this one woman, she just kept coming out with stuff and coming out with stuff. And finally, I said to her, because we were at the big dinner on Saturday night, and I said to her, I said, "You know what you need to do?" And she just looked at me. I think she thought I was going to tell her something terrible. And I said, "You need to do a one-woman show." I said, she said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I see everything that I said that comes out of your mouth, and the way she said it, the way she
Mhm.
just says it, it's funny. I mean, so she said, "I never thought about it," but she said, "I'm going to go back and maybe develop this." I said, "Well," and she said, "I'm going to test it out on you." I said, "Fine, I'm willing to be a guinea pig." Well, first of all, we've got about 4 minutes left, maybe actually three, and I want to tell them where to get your free ebook. So tell them about that. Tell them more about your website.
Yes, please design it. In fact, when you open up the website, I'm talking to you. You're inside my refrigerator. So there's lots of fun things in there, and there'll be a pop-up, or you can go to free gift, and that's where you just can download right then the holiday food survival guide. And I would love everybody to get it. Then I have a little audio book of the guide with the songs if you want it. That one's $7, but the guide is totally free. You can give it as gifts. I mean, it'll really make a difference for people because, the prettiest sight you'll see is how much thinner you will be when you eat healthy because you feel fabulous and now you're truly wealthy because it is beginning to look a lot like the holidays. Thank you, Gail.
Oh, you're welcome. So, folks, if you want to find out more about Maggie Hunts, her website is sweetlifenow.com. You can find her on Facebook at It's a Sweet Life Now. Her free ebook, Holiday Food Survival Guide, is on her website. And if you want to get the audio guide after that, it's $7. And I just think this has been absolutely delightful. So we've got 2 minutes left, Maggie. What would you like to tell our listeners that we haven't talked about?
I would just like to say, whatever somebody's dealing with or working with, you are not alone. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that you can do it. There's people out there that really, really want to help you and lighten your spirits. I always want everybody to raise your spirits, not your blood sugar. And it's the same thing with whatever we might be dealing with. So thank you for representing that so beautifully, Gail.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. But, folks, I think you've learned a lot today about how to live with a disease that is not fun, that is not easy, but one that, you can live with and you can make work for you if you really try it. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be doable. And that's what you have to look at and think about and so forth. So, my guest has been Maggie Hunts, and her website is sweetlifenow.com. And that's when you're going to find her free gift, her holiday food survival guide. And I just hope you do that, get that, because I think it's going to be just a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today, Maggie. It has been an absolute delight.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you.